Greetings, TTRPG tabletop role-playing game fans. If any of you are running your own campaigns or refereeing, especially in the OSR style where there's certain types of workflows that you do while you're exploring, sort of procedures, I tried to automate some of that using AI. And before you stop watching, I don't use ChatGPT. I'm not paying for third-party services. I'm running the LLMs locally on my own computer or on a server I have access to. I'm not paying subscription fees. And so it's kind of interesting. What can you do with AI to help you manage your cognitive load as a referee while still maintaining creative control and respecting creative people's work in the process? So what we're going to do here is I have a prompt. I wrote this little agentic workflow, and I'll show you. What's going on is I have a computer with some VRAM running my LLM, and I'm running the server myself, and I'm going to start up this little debugging application. And so our party here is a level 1 party standing in the wilderness in the middle of a hot summer on a full moon night. Use the random encounter tool, which I put together here, and I'll show you how. The party's face character has a charisma modifier of +0, and that's going to be used for reaction checks. And then check the treasure, if there's any treasure, by rolling a d6. And I define success as 3 to 6. It's usually a little worse, but just for fun. And if there's treasure, call the treasure table tool. So I've basically given this AI a number of tools that have preloaded tables, just like you'd use in the front of your Shadowdark book or whatnot. And let's see how it goes. So I'll start it over here. The GPUs spin up. It's almost 100%. And then I'm getting some feedback here. This is my debugging. So there it rolled some stuff. Ooh, giant crab spiders, a D3. Okay. And you can see that it's like running the tools that it has access to, reading the response, and then it's generating some flavor text to glue together the results of all these rolls. So you could do all these rolls yourself. And now to be clear, the AI is not faking rolls. It's calling code, Python code, and then it's using the results of the rolls on those tables to then kind of glue it together with some text. So for example, here we can now read, the oppressive heat of the summer night presses against you, sweat beating from your skin despite a gentle breeze. And so it gives you a little flavor text, and then it'll start introducing the encounter. And so just so you can go up and see, it was wilderness. I currently only have wilderness and dungeons in here, tables. And the starting distance is close. The activity of the creature in the encounter is it's socializing or playing. The roll here, +0, there was no charisma modifier, so it's a hostile. You can adjust all this as you'd like, or just ignore it and make it up. So it just gives you some information though. And there's a chance that creatures might speak common. If you encounter a goblin, I think a 20% chance it can speak common. And then treasure, so it rolled a D100 on this treasure table. So it says here, from the tall grass on your immediate left, 2 massive shapes emerge, giant crabs, each the size of a hunting dog. And they come through, both creatures freeze, then turn toward you with unsettling speed. Their stalked eyes swivel as they raise their crushing claws high. So these guys are upset, they're hostile. And then it gives you a little stat block here. I haven't added stat blocks. You could pull stuff from like the SRD. I'll give you a little example. So yeah, the particular Old School Essentials has an SRD. So I copy pasted the dungeon encounters, and there were some wilderness encounters in here as well. And I put that into some Python functions that the LLM, the AI, can call to generate random encounters. And then some other things here. I really learned a lot from D4 Caltrops. This procedural workflow charts. This really helped me understand the OSR mindset of the exploring loop, the game loop. I don't know what you want to call it, but this, and then you can use any type of rule systems you'd like. If you'd like a more modern D20 system, kind of like Shadowdark, but you're using the OSR mindset for exploration and these workflows. That's something I only recently learned as I started getting into this about a month ago. So this is actually fairly good to program in a way and create some tools that help you as a GM keep track, hopefully without getting in the way or detracting from the immersion. So with this, you can just roll up encounters quickly. and gives you some more details, the distance, what they're up to. If maybe some treasure, you could figure out if it's on the actual enemies or if they encounter it somehow. And then of course, what do you do? Emphasizing that player ability to do whatever you like. So let's try it again. I'll roll up another one. We'll leave it in the same situation, level 1 party in the wilderness. And then it's gonna do some more debugging. So this one is a traveling merchant. He's hunting, he's suspicious. And then, first tier spell scroll. I believe I copy pasted this from Shadowdark's free rule set for the D100 loot treasure table. And while it's going, I'll give you a quick discussion. My main interest for the past year has been quantizing LLMs for locally running. So things like Llama CPP, maybe you've heard of. If you've heard of Ollama, that's just some icing on top of the real cake, which is Llama CPP, which allows you to run AI locally on your gaming computer, especially if you have a good GPU. And so this particular model just came out a few days ago, released from China, ZAI. And the full size is rather large, but I've compressed it. So I'm actually running this very small one. It fits in 2 GPUs with a total of about 96 GB VRAM. You can run it also on CPU, and you can use smaller models. You've probably heard of like GPT OSS. So you can run stuff on just a CPU without a big graphics card. It'll be slower, but it'll still work. So you can pre-generate some encounters. And here we go back over this particular guy, the merchant. So there it is, a short, stout man in a stained leather apron. His bald head glistens with sweat. He holds a short spear. His grip tightens on his weapon. He doesn't approach, but he doesn't retreat either, watching you with suspicion. So you can see here it has he has some coins. He can communicate in common. He has a spell scroll. So a very rough, just a stat block here. Like I said, I'd like to get some real stat blocks put in. There are many of them available on the various OSR SRDs, or you can adjust them from your own sources. So let's look at the code a little bit. If you have done any Python, this will look familiar to you. And so the key things here, pydantic-ai is a framework. I'm a big fan of Pydantic. I've been using it for like web APIs. I'm sort of a back-end server person. I love Linux. I work a little bit differently on my computer than some people, as you can see. Now it says OpenAI base, but I'm not using a third party. I'm providing my own API here. So this is connecting to localhost, the SSH port forwarding, standard stuff. And here we go. So let's go down. Here is the system prompt. You've probably heard of people talking about prompt engineering. So this is a way to give suggestions to the AI, like how do you want the results formatted? So I'm saying you are OSR game master, referee, and I put some sort of vibe tags or whatever you want to call them, like grimdark, swords and sorcery. You could flavor it for your campaign however you like. And I'm saying Shadowdark RPG system. And so the philosophy and tone, these are just some tags. So this allows you to inject some sort of like human-y natural language flavor on top of the procedurally generated functions. Player agency. So that's why it's always like, what do you do at the end of it? And then system mechanics. You don't really need all this in here, but it is just something I thought would be useful. And so for the output format that the AI will present you after generating it, I would like some narrative flavor text, something I as the GM or the referee can read out loud to my players. You could go next level and like AI generate some voices, but you don't want to, just a little bit at a time, just have fun. So I'm just saying, put it in text that I can just read out loud easily, and then follow that up with stat blocks and any mechanics that I need so I don't have to reference the rules book. And then I give an example of an output, what it looks like. It's in markdown format, of course. And then tool use. So I'm like telling the AI, hey, I've given you some tools. I have a tool that lets you roll a random dice, because the AI can't really generate a random number in the same way that using entropy from your computer clock and that seeding it can do. So do not pre-plan the outcomes, right? So roll all the tables. Each table is rolled, and then basically the results of maybe half a dozen rolls are given to the AI, and it strings it together to format the final output. So that's sort of the main system prompt. And then I've provided some tools. It can get the date time. I could ask it, like, if it's night, or depending on the season, maybe provide some flavor text based on the season. We can try that. Roll number of dice, 1d6, 2d8, whatever that type of stuff. And now here are the dungeon tables. So I haven't found a way. These are kind of hard coded right now. I honestly vibe coded it, which is not great. I don't really care for the formatting, but perhaps I can add a way that you can just have a directory on your computer in a standard YAML or TOML or JSON. It's a simple format that then when the program starts up, it'll just read all your tables and provide tools and descriptions for those. I'm gonna go ahead and put a link to where I copy pasted this. And then, so that's our dungeon, and we have a wilderness table here with a number of creatures, and depending on the level of the party. All right, monster table. This is the function that goes through and pulls from those tables. We have a distance table. You'll recognize a lot of this on a D6 if the enemies are close, near, or far. It gives a little bit more entropy into your encounters. The activity table. So what are the creatures doing? So you could customize all this as well, and which could make for some pretty complex situations that you can get results with rather quickly with a tool like this, as opposed to rolling. So it's a way to keep that procedurally generated randomness, so you as a referee are not going to be leaning in too hard to your own bias. And so that's the idea with this. And then we have a reaction tool, which can take a charisma modifier, and you can kind of adjust this as needed on the fly, but it'll get you a baseline result. And then a language table, so if creatures, maybe is an intelligent creature, does it speak common if it doesn't usually? And then the treasure table, we have the D100 treasure. And then we go down a little more, so you can see the random encounter basically just says, call a monster table, call a distance table, call an activity, and then take the results of all of those, present it to the AI and say, okay, write this up for me. I've made all the rolls using real random number generator procedurally with code, not AI slop stuff, and then take those real numbers, add a little AI slop on top of it, and then see what comes out. And so we could try a different thing here. We could say we have a level 2 party standing in a large dungeon room. Yes, a large dungeon room with a closed door to the north and east. Sure, whatever. And then we'll say use the random encounter tool. The party's face has a charisma modifier of +2. You have a charming fellow or lady or what have you. Check for the treasure by rolling a d6. Okay. And so you could add other information here if you wanted to. If there's any other type of thing you'd want it to add. Let's see, theme. Let's say add to the end here. Use the date tool to add a seasonal theme. And today happens to be Christmas where I'm located, December 25th. And so we'll give that a try. So we're going to come down. We should see a new run start coming through. The GPUs spin up down here. Oh boy, 600 watts power. I don't know how I feel about that. It's beautiful. And disconcerting at the same time. Welcome to the interesting future. So you can see it's going through. We got gnolls. The D6 gnolls. Close. They're hunting. They're curious, so they might not openly attack. And none of them can actually speak common. And there's a potential treasure, obsidian statue, worth 15 gold. So now that's been taken, thrown to the AI, which will then churn out a little block. The bitter chill of winter, so it did just pick up on the season, seeps through the ancient stone walls, your breath forming white clouds in the torchlight. The cold draft whispers through the cracks in the masonry. The northern door bursts inward, splintering crush, and 3 hunched hyena creatures lurch into the chamber. Their mangy matted fur clings to gaunt, scarred limbs, and their eyes glow with feral hunger as they sniff the air, searching for prey. One knoll wears a necklace of polished finger bones, yada yada. A dark obsidian statuette carved with grotesque detail. So that's cool. The treasure that was rolled got introduced into the flavor text, which you may or may not want because you might not want them to know this treasure. You might have to search for it. And then, let's just say, the gnolls growl and they're low in their throats, heads cocked, watching you with wary interest rather than immediate aggression. And I like how, as you read this, you could cut it down. You could probably prompt it to make it smaller depending on your crowd, your party. But they don't really know what's going to happen. But they see all this interesting, grotesque, potentially dangerous stuff. And at the end, it's like, oh, you might not just get attacked. You might have to work through this in creative ways. And so we have the gnolls, 3 of them, 9 hit points each. They have an attack. I'm using like the D20 system here. You can do 19 minus if you want to convert like Thaco and stuff. Alignment is chaotic. And so I don't know where it's coming up with these specials. Keen smell. And they cannot speak common. And winter atmosphere. The chamber is bitterly cold. So I guess it picked up on that for the season based on the date. And let's see, did it actually call the date? If we look at the running tools, it called get daytime. And it also called the random encounter tool, and then it called the roll dice for 5. So it called that to roll for the treasure. And there you go. So this is one possible way of creating your own agentic AI that doesn't need a third party. You can run this on your own home computer. If you might not give quite as good a flavor text on a smaller model. This is a fairly big model, but it's really quantized. And so I'm curious to see how this stuff goes. I'll keep working on it. And all right, happy holidays.